Welcome to the Carnivore Cast, the podcast focused on the carnivore diet and lifestyle, with practical advice from successful carnivores, citizen scientists, and top researchers. I'm your host, Scott Myslinski, and I'm here to speak with experts and experienced carnivores to get answers to your biggest and meatiest questions while helping you live your best life as a carnivore. If you enjoy the show, please consider supporting the Carnivore Cast on Patreon. By becoming a patron, you'll help us reach more people and continue to create content on carnivore. There are also exclusive perks available, such as private Q&As, consultations with me, and more. Become a supporter at patreon.com/carnivorecast. Check the episode description for the link. Thank you, and I'll see you there. Matt Gallant is the CEO of BiOptimizers and has a bachelor's degree in Kinesiology. I can never pronounce that. He's been a strength and conditioning coach for multiple pro athletes. He's a self-defense instructor. He's over 10 years experience formulating supplements. Matt runs BiOptimizers with Wade Lightheart, the president and former three-time Canadian natural bodybuilding champion. Matt and Wade are known fondly as the We Fix Digestion guys, and they've served more than 50,000 customers over 15 years of business, helping people find natural solutions to difficult digestive problems. Welcome to the show.
Great to be here, Scott.
Thanks, Matt. So I like to get to know the guests personally as well. It'd be great if you could start, for folks who aren't familiar, with a little bit of your health history and also your background as a strength and conditioning coach.
Sure. When I was 12, my father bought me a weight set for Christmas, and I can't say I got the bodybuilding bug at that moment. It was a few years later. I was 16. I was walking on the beach and I saw two huge guys. And I went home and that was it. I'm like, okay, I want to look like that. And I got totally obsessed. I was 147 pounds at the time and went from 147 to 235 in 3 years, doing the anabolic diet and training 12 times a week. Bodybuilding became my life. Then I got into personal training, working with athletes, worked with NHL hockey player, worked with fighters, got into fighting, specifically mixed martial arts, hand-to-hand combat, trained with the Navy SEAL for 7 years. And that was fun. I really liked working on people's nervous system. And the bodybuilding stuff was fun, like changing how you look and be able to add muscle mass or burn body fat. It's cool. Still enjoy it, but being able to level someone's performance, I really got hooked on that. And I built a couple of personal training companies. And then I met Wade at the gym. So Wade was also a trainer. Built a friendship and we hung out for a couple of years. And finally, I was learning internet marketing. And I said to Wade, hey, listen, I think what you're doing is weird enough that it's packageable. So he was a vegetarian, natural bodybuilding champion. And that's a pretty weird combination, especially we're talking 18 years ago. So this is way before any of these trends came up. And that's what we did. We built a product called Freaky Big Naturally. We served the bodybuilding market. And then we started releasing some cool products like Masszymes, which is like 15 years ago. Still one of our best-selling products. It's really designed for anybody consuming protein. So whether you're an athlete or a bodybuilder, you want to be able to get the amino acids. I know we're going to talk about enzymes, but enzymes is really the key. And if you can't break down the protein into usable amino acids, transport them through your intestinal tract, and then assimilate them as muscle tissue or other organs, then the protein's useless. So yeah, that's been the history, and BiOptimizers continue to evolve. We've been in business, like I said, I think it's going to be going on 16 years. And we focused a lot on optimizing digestion. Now we're getting into brains. And yeah, that's the story in a nutshell.
Yeah, super interesting. So many questions. First of all, I'm curious, the digestion piece, was that motivated primarily from like seeing this with a lot of the clients and people you had worked with and companies you had started in the past, or was some of it motivated by your own personal experiences and trying to improve your own digestion as well?
It was motivated by spending a day with a man named Dr. Michael O'Brien, who really changed how we saw nutrition. See, when people think of nutrition, they just think of consuming good food, which of course is the first piece, right? You got to consume good food, but you got to be able to break down, right? Convert, and then assimilate the molecules. So assimilate the amino acids, the glucose, the essential fatty acids. So when you look at nutrition from that perspective, it changes what you think is important and what you think is not important. I mean, is eating good quality food, organic, all that stuff? Of course it is. But again, if you want to nutrify your body, it's all about, again, that breakdown, that absorption. So we met Michael O'Brien. He was in his 70s. I still to this day have never met a more vibrant human being of that in that age. Went all day, didn't eat. When you shake your hand, it was a strong, firm handshake. His eyes were clear, great skin. And we went on the protocol. We were spending $500 a month on his protocol. It was mostly enzymes, probiotics, and some other really nutrient-rich supplements. And it was just transformative. Like that's when we got hooked on biological optimization. That started the journey. That switched us from the bodybuilding mentality into, vitality, energy. Like we just felt like, okay, this other switch came on. Like I remember that, holy shit, I've got so much energy. I feel so good. And we've been on that journey ever since. And that's when we said, okay, well, we need to build a better version of those enzymes, which we did. We felt like the proteolytic enzymes was the key. His had some, but not as much as we thought it could use. And we focused on the bodybuilding market. So it really started with that experience. And, we've just been riding that wave ever since.
Yeah, that's super cool. And it's funny because you talk about being able to assimilate food. And it's funny watching videos of these bodybuilders who are eating like 6-8 meals a day, just shoveling rice, turkey, broccoli, whatever. And they have horrible gas and they're tired and they're sleeping all the time. They're napping. You have to wonder, like, how much of that food are they actually making use of? How much of it can actually become, muscle tissue, to your point. You can't assimilate. So I think it's really smart, but it's something that affects everyone, not just bodybuilders.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And actually, like we've worked with pro bodybuilders. I'm friends with Ben Pekulski, who at one point was top 3 in the world. The biggest challenge for those guys and for a lot of athletes is actually consuming the food. It's not the training. When you have to eat like 6,000 plus calories of clean food a day, it's very difficult. Mm-hmm. Like most people couldn't do it. They would tap out. It's almost as difficult as fasting or starving. Like it's that challenging. Your body just doesn't want it. You have to fight your body's natural defense mechanisms, which tell you stop eating. And what falls apart with a lot of people at that level is their digestive systems. It's not even just that they're not assimilating, but they're just in constant digestive distress. They don't feel good. They feel bloated all the time. They feel full all the time. So a lot of our pro bodybuilder clients, they take 100 capsules a day. That's the protocol. Wow. So, but if you take 100 capsules of Magnesium, some P3M, some HCl, you can just about eat anything and eliminate or minimize all the digestive issues.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I guess, I think a lot of people, in addition to enzymes, there are a lot of like basic lifestyle things that people are doing wrong, which can really affect their digestion. Do you help them focus on that as well?
We'll start with chewing.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it really starts with chewing. And ideally, you're in a really mindful space when you're chewing. Because again, it's rest and digest is another way to describe being in parasympathetic mode. So when you're eating, ideally, you're just really mindful. You're just enjoying the food, tasting the food, breaking down the food. And the enzyme, the digestive system starts there. First, you smell the food and your body will release amylase in the mouth. But in terms of the protease or the lipases, it recognizes, let's say you're eating a piece of steak. your brain knows it's eating protein and fats, and it'll start producing the enzymes which will be released in your stomach, in your digestive system. So it's really important. The more you chew, again, the more you're basically pre-digesting the food, and you're helping your body really recognize what it is that it's eating and what it needs to produce. So I think really good digestion starts there. The other big thing too, and this is huge in my opinion, doing a biome test is a really smart idea, because what I've noticed with myself, with a lot of other clients and people, is if you look at the data, and most of the time it correlates to people's experience. I'll give you an example, a personal one. I've never felt good eating chicken. Chicken's a classic bodybuilding staple food. I never liked it. I never felt good on it. And I did the biome test. It said, don't eat chicken. It's like an avoid food. Whereas beef always felt awesome. It was a superfood for me in the biome test. And basically the biome tells you, based on your gut biome, which foods you can digest easily and which ones you can't. And it's very valuable data. Then you can also get into nutrigenomics and start looking at, there's a lot. I mean, when it comes to nutrigenomics, a lot of things you can look at. But I'll give you another personal example. Coconut oil. My triglycerides were off the charts when I was using a lot of coconut oil. This is 7-8 years ago. Coconut oil was hot. I was throwing it on everything, in shakes and food, just all everywhere. And my triglycerides were really problematic. I just cut out most coconut oil and they just went back to normal. And again, you look at my nutrigenomics, I'm just not designed genetically to break that down. Same thing with fasting. Fasting, if you have Mediterranean genetics, for most of these people where there was just an abundance of food for generations, they're not designed to fast. And if you watch their HRV, if you look at their heart rate and you just ask how they feel like crap, their heart rate goes up, their heart variability goes down. Whereas myself, as a Caucasian from Northern Canada, my family has been able to withstand winters for a long time, and I thrive on fasting. So those are some of the things that I think when you're talking about optimizing your diet, those are as important as, which diet style or type that you eat. Like, it's those refinements, that personalization, that individualization that makes a massive, massive difference in terms of your results.
This episode is brought to you by Element Electrolytes. We know that salt, potassium, and magnesium are essential minerals, especially for those on carnivore, keto, and low-carb diets to relieve hunger, dizziness, cramps, headaches, and keep so many of your bodily processes running optimally, including sleep, brain and mental health, hormonal health, your heart, immunity, and more. Element electrolytes are convenient, evidence-based, and delicious. My wife and I have been using Element for years, every single day. They're great for fueling hard workouts, getting adapted and beating keto flu, fasting, traveling with them, and kickstarting your day with energy. They're used by Navy SEALs, Olympic weightlifters, jiu-jitsu athletes, and everyday people who want to make themselves better, like you and me. They're also founded by superhero Rob Wolf. LMNT is offering free, that's right, free people, Element sample packs to Carnivore Cast listeners. All you have to do is pay for shipping. Go to drinklmnt.com/carnivorecast to claim this awesome deal. That's drinklmnt.com/carnivorecast, one word, and I'll include a link in the show notes.
I couldn't agree more. I think like chewing, slowing down, being mindful, finding which foods work well for you, all things that I've learned the hard way and have made a huge difference for myself personally and a lot of people I speak with. And Matt, can you talk about the link between the gut and the brain? I hear this cited so much, but no one has really explained it in a succinct way to me.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, we're still uncovering a lot. Right? There's still a lot to discover. Here's what we do know. It seems to be a bidirectional system, meaning that the brain and the gut are sending messages to each other. As far as what's being produced in the gut, 95% of your serotonin, 50% of your dopamine is being produced in the gut. So those are two really critical molecules. So if you're dopamine deficient, your ability to perform is incredibly compromised. Like Charles Poliquin, who's one of the greatest strength coaches of all time, he wouldn't even work with an athlete that was dopamine deficient. I mean, almost every entrepreneur, any hard driving person you ever met, if you look at their genetics, they're wired for dopamine. If you get them to do a Braverman test, you'll see they're dopamine dominant. So dopamine is critical. It's the molecule of anticipation. It's a critical part of the learning process. So you optimizing that, and you can optimize that with nootropics. We also have another company called Nootopia that we produce nootropics where you can basically enhance all these molecules. But I think you really want to start by focusing on the gut. We have a product called Cognibiotics, which actually does that. It's different bacteria strains that have been shown clinically to actually improve the brain. Some bacteria will also improve BDNF, which is brain-derived neurotrophic factors. BDNF is like miracle-grow for the brain. It's really powerful. So if you're trying to change, grow, learn, the more you can increase BDNF, the faster it's going to happen. It helps with neurogenesis, which is basically your brain growing. I've done a lot of brain training. I've done about 8 weeks of my life with, sensors, your electrodes, doing neurofeedback. And one of the things we found is that the more we can optimize BDNF and all the brain growth factors, glial growth factors, nerve growth factors, the more your brain will respond. And it's true as well for learning. Just anything you want to say, like somebody's learning a language, they're learning an instrument. If you could crank up your BDNF, crank up all the growth factors, you'll learn more. And then you just get serotonin. So when you're people that are depressed, typically they're either not producing serotonin, they're not able to uptake it. There's a serotonin problem. Serotonin stabilizes mood. It helps people feel a sense of optimism. It helps them feel stable, hopeful, and it's a key molecule. And that's also what was being produced in the gut. Again, 95% of the serotonin is being produced there. So yeah, that's a key thing you want to optimize. And again, the Cognibiotic helps with that.
Yeah, I imagine it could have a massive impact on sleep as well, with the precursors for melatonin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, optimizing serotonin is key to melatonin. So we have a great product that is a game changer for sleep, which is Magnesium Breakthrough. So magnesium is also a precursor to serotonin, and serotonin is a precursor to melatonin. So what we found, and we got a sleep product coming out soon, and that's our approach. Taking melatonin is a huge mistake for sleep. What we found with a lot of molecules, and it's true for just about every hormone, if you take that exogenous form, let's say just take melatonin, you take melatonin or orally or whichever way, your body will downregulate, right? Your body starts downregulating, and you need more and more and more, and it starts at some point, it'll just stop the production of its own melatonin. Same thing with testosterone, right? However, if you feed it precursors and you maximize the conversion of these precursors into that final molecule, that's the path. That's how you maximize results. And that's our whole approach with virtually every product we ever do, including kApex as an example. It's all about what are we trying to achieve and how can we maximize the conversions at each level?
Yeah, that's smart rather than suppress and replace. Can you talk a bit about diets and ketosis and carnivore and how you became interested in them?
Yeah. So before I got bit by the bodybuilding bug, I came home one day. I was 190 pounds and my uncle said I was fat, and it pissed me off. It hurt. I was chubby. I was kind of always a chubby kid. And I started doing some research. I think I went to the bookstore and I found the Atkins book. And I was 16. This is like 28 years ago. So I bought the book and I started doing keto, Atkins style keto, and running. And I went from 190 to 147 in 6 months. So that was my first ketogenic experience. And then when I got bit by the bodybuilding bug, which was like right after that. So again, I'm 147, get bit by the bug, and I discovered the anabolic diet, which was a game changer. So the anabolic diet was created by Dr. Moore DePasquale, brilliant guy, Canadian, another Canadian. And he created this approach for bodybuilding where you would optimize your hormonal response by doing cyclical keto. So you do keto for 5 or 6 days and then refeed on carbs for 1 or 2 days with a huge calorie spike. And in terms of building lean muscle mass, I think that it is 100% superior than just doing keto nonstop. The other thing too, and I think cyclical keto for most people in most situations is the way to go. One of the things that happens when you go on keto nonstop is your glycolytic pathways will get weaker and weaker and weaker. There's a lot of research that shows that. That means your ability to burn carbs, to utilize carbs, to assimilate carbs gets compromised. And there's some really interesting research that came out, I believe, about a year ago with athletes. And what they did is they put them on a ketogenic diet, and then they got them to refeed prior to the sporting event. And even though they refed, and this was like a multi-day refeed, their performance was compromised. And that's one of the downsides of ketogenic diets. Like for power, so if you're an athlete, I do think that, and I'm not saying you shouldn't do ketogenic diets once in a while. I do think being fat adapted is a good thing. But for athletes, for power athletes, no doubt, there's zero doubt at this point in my mind that carbs is superior. And that should be said. But once you're fat adapted, I did a great interview with Dom D'Agostino, who's one of our scientific advisors at BiOptimizers. And he talks about using carbs as a performance enhancer. So like once you're fully fat adapted and you're ketogenic, like I'm so fat adapted and I tracked it last year. I started eating about 200 grams of carbs, 250 grams of carbs for weeks. I was still producing ketones. I was still keto in ketosis with 200, 250 grams of carbs, wow. Which is just because I've done it for so long. It's not because I'm special. If you keep going, your body will just always be producing ketones is what it seems like. I don't know at what point it would have stopped. Like it was always at least 0.4, 0.5, 0.6 millimoles on the blood work. But you can use carbs, usually about 40 to 80 grams during a workout. And you're going to scorch that. Like on a leg day, 80 grams, on, let's say, an arm day, 40 grams. You do that intra workout. First of all, you're going to get a better workout. In my opinion, you're going to get a more anabolic response. And the solution, by the way, is carbs and protein, and you throw masszymes in there. So you're breaking the protein to amino acids. So you're sipping glucose and amino acids, throw in some minerals, and your performance throughout the workout will stay elevated, and you're going to get a much better anabolic response. There is research that shows that intra-workout protein consumption, amino acid consumption does enhance results, does enhance recovery. So yeah, I do think that, again, I'm a keto guy. Like I just want to be clear that is what I feel best on. But I always refeed at least 1 day a week, and probably 3, 4, 5 weeks a year, I go off completely. I eat carbs because, again, I think that it's better. And I haven't seen any clinical research on this, but a lot of people also report that their sex hormone binding globulins will go up and their free tests will drop massively if they just stay on keto nonstop without refeeds.
Yeah, I've seen that too.
So, if you refeed too, like let's say you refeed on a Sunday, which is what I typically do, you got glycogen in your body like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, depending how much you refed, depending how much you're training. And that Monday, Tuesday workouts, those are our next level workouts. You're kind of dual fuel at that point. You still got glucose in the system, plus once you're fat adapted, you'll be producing ketones. And yeah, I'm a big fan of just cyclical keto in general.
Interesting. Yeah. And I guess for someone who isn't an athlete, maybe who's just trying to get healthier, maybe they have some form of chronic health condition or gut issues. Do you think there are benefits of a high protein, high fat diet like carnivore?
Yeah. And like when I go keto, I'm pretty much carnivore. It's pretty much what I default to. Like I'll have a little bit of, I do like ferments. So kimchi, sauerkraut, fermented Brussels sprouts, stuff like that. But for the most part, it's steak, salmon, eggs. That's it. Like that's my staples. I do think, let's talk about what happens and why diets become tribes. A lot of times people go from, first of all, going from the standard American diet to any other diet typically produces really good results.
It's auto win.
Right? It does. Now, why? Couple main reasons. One, you're eliminating a lot of, first of all, there's usually eliminating calories. Start with that. So when you're reducing calories and you go from a calorie surplus to a calorie deficit, your blood work tends to improve, right? Biomarkers get better and you just feel better and you just look better and all the good things that happen. The second thing, when people eliminate foods that are inflammatory for them and they go to a really strict diet like carnivore, obviously they're eliminating a lot of, if not all those inflammatory foods. So again, it's another way that they feel better and they look better. The other thing that happens is they increase their protein. Like protein is the king macro, whether it's weight loss, whether it's muscle gain, athletic performance, and overall health. Now, I'm not saying there's more protein is better, optimal is better, but a lot of people go from a protein deficiency to eating an optimal amount of protein and everything kicks in, right? They'll start building more muscle. They'll lose more fat. Their athletic performance improves. So, I want to be clear that even though I'm a huge keto guy, I love carnivore. That is what I do. If we just break it down into why it works, those are the reasons. It's the same thing. Like if you go to a strict plant-based diet, you'll get a lot of those same results. Your calories might drop. Usually they do. The inflammatory foods drop. And I think a lot of people make the mistake of, becoming tribal disciples and preaching like it's the answer for everyone. And in my experience working with people, it's not. And now we get into the nutrigenomics of keto, and there are certain genes that allow people to thrive on keto. There's certain genes that allow certain people to thrive on plant-based. And if you don't have those genes, it can be a struggle. And that's where we go back to biofeedback. Do you feel good? For a long time, I thought keto was the answer for everyone. Like I put all my clients as a trainer for a long time. Every client was going on keto. And the truth was that maybe half of them got incredible results. And the other half, they didn't feel good. They had soft stools. Their skin would have issues. And I just didn't know better. I didn't realize that, maybe it's not the right diet for them. A lot of people would lose muscle mass. Like I had a couple male clients that they got catabolic. I just cut their calories too much. And, those are guys that thrive on carbs. So yeah, I'm all about individualization and customization back to that point. But I do think for a lot of people, keto and carnivore is an awesome way of life. It's an awesome solution. It certainly works for me.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. People ask me if I think carnivore is magical or if everyone should be on a carnivore diet. And I say, no, it's a really easy solution. It's an elimination diet. It solves a lot of problems for a lot of people very quickly. If 90% of people in the world switch to a carnivore diet tomorrow, they start getting healthier because they're eating more protein. They're probably in a calorie deficit. They're cutting out a lot of nutrient poor foods. And they're eating really highly bioavailable nutrients in the form of animal meat. But I don't think everyone has to be on a carnivore diet forever, nor do I think there's something uniquely special about being 100% carnivore. There are a lot of people who try it and do an elimination style diet and say, I feel awesome like this and I want to stay on this. And they keep getting results and they keep feeling great, and that's their lifestyle, and that's awesome. I applaud that. But a lot of people like myself either run into roadblocks or decide they want to incorporate other foods for performance, for satiety, for enjoyment. And I think that's fine too. I think it's a great like template and framework. And let's talk about what is kApex? I'm curious to learn more about that, and maybe how you think it could benefit people on keto or carnivore diets, especially.
Yeah, kApex came from me wanting to optimize ketogenic digestion. I mean, that was the purpose, starting from day one, and back to clients. And like Wade's a good example. My business partner Wade, he's been plant-based for 2 decades. And when he did try like a plant-based keto, and he was getting a lot of fats in his stools and just not struggling to break down the fats. So that really got my wheels turning and motivated me even more. So first of all, it starts with enzymes. And the main 2 enzymes you need, obviously, in a ketogenic diet is protease and lipase. So we use the same blend of enzymes that we do in Masszymes in terms on the proteolytic side. And the way those work is they get activated at different pH levels. So as the food goes through from your stomach to your intestinal tract, small intestine to large intestine, these enzymes are activated and just keep breaking down the food into the amino acids and helping you absorb them. Then we tested a lot of lipases. So there's 4 different lipases. We did the same approach with the lipase. Again, lipase breaks fat molecules into essential fatty acids and glycerol, right? And at the end of the day, it's the same thing as the protein. You want to be absorbing essential fatty acids. Then there's a micro amount of HCl, so hydrochloric acid, which some people are deficient in, especially as they get older. Then we added dandelion root, which stimulates bile. So bile production is really important, especially for absorbing fat soluble vitamins and molecules. So the dandelion root will stimulate that. And then we get into maximizing the assimilation of those essential fatty acids. How do we do that? CoQ10, inoslim, L-carnitine for the transport. So we've got the L-carnitine to transport the fats, and then we're trying to stimulate the mitochondria to utilize more of those essential fatty acids and produce more ATP, get more energy. And that was the part where that was my intent, and I was really pleasantly surprised by how impactful it actually is. The first time I got the prototypes, I took 5 capsules at 3 p.m. and it took me a couple of hours to fall asleep that night. And I'm like, okay, well, I usually don't have a trouble falling asleep. Is it kApex? I don't know. Like, let me repeat that experiment. I did the exact same thing and tracked it in my Oura. It took me 3 hours to fall asleep that night. I had 3 hours sleep latency. Usually I'm 5-10 minutes. And yeah, it works. There's no stimulants. And what I love about it too, it's not tapping into your adrenal glands. You're just producing more ATP essentially by, again, breaking down more fats, transporting them, and then activating the mitochondria. So it's really effective at, again, breaking down a fatty meal and boosting energy. So a lot of people use it as an energy booster. 3 to 5 caps, first thing in the morning, empty stomach, and it'll last, again, 6 to 10 hours. And again, it doesn't stimulate your adrenals. So you can add coffee to that if you want. You can add nootropics to that. You can add whatever you want. And it just works really well. So that's the 2 main ways people use kApex. Yeah,
that's awesome. I wish I had that when I was starting out on a carnivore diet, or even in more recent years. For context, and some listeners may be familiar, but essentially I had massive issues with getting in enough calories on a carnivore diet and ran up against a wall in terms of my digestion. So, I tried everything from, switching from rendered fats to only solid fats like raw suet. I tried many different sources. I tried only eating fat from steaks instead of ground beef, and cutting out butter, using butter, eggs, etc. And time and again, I found that I felt better with a higher fat to protein ratio. I need about 4,000 calories just to maintain my body weight. And that means if you're only eating protein and fat, just the math works out. That's either way too much protein, where you start getting into issues with sweating all the time and feeling lethargic, and just like massive amounts of getting energy through gluconeogenesis, which I think is really stressful for the body in those amounts. Or you're getting so much added fat to get your calories in. And for me, I found consistently that if I went for 2 or 3 weeks at a time, where I was over 150 grams of fat a day, I would feel great. But then all of a sudden, very far away from meals, in the middle of the night, I would get horrible bloating and belching. I would just be belching uncontrollably at like 3 a.m. Far away from any meal. And, I tried everything. I tried no water close to meals. I tried eating slower. I tried more meals, smaller meals, bigger meals, fasting. And it was just like clockwork. After 2 or 3 weeks of having my fat above that level every single time, that came back. And that's why eventually I started reintroducing other foods systematically, carbs, so that I could just make that math equation work of needing at least 4,000 calories. But yeah, I imagine something like kApex would have helped a lot.
And no doubt about it. I went to a brisket place last Friday and with some friends, and I gave them some kApex, and they're all like, man, we probably ate a couple thousand calories of meat, and everybody's like, man, I feel great. That's the difference. There's no bloating, no gas, no heaviness. I grew up feeling like, hey, if you're not feeling like you've got cement in your stomach after a meal, it wasn't a good meal. Like that's how my parents thought. Now I know it's the opposite. If I feel like I got cement in my stomach, either wasn't a good meal, or I didn't take enough enzymes, or that's not what you should feel. You should feel good. You should feel like, maybe not you can go a sprint, but you can move, and you don't feel like sitting on the couch and watching Netflix.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know you're tossing around the idea of a carnivore cookbook. What is that, and how can people get it?
Yeah, it's out. There's a guy named Cody, and he's just a wizard. I saw him on Instagram, and I saw he was doing some really wild, cool recipes. And he's amazing. So let me try to find the code here. But yeah, BiOptimizedKeto.com. So we're starting to get a whole line of products for keto. So you go to BiOptimizedKeto.com, you can just enter your name and email, and basically we almost give away the cookbook. But yeah, it's amazing recipes. He's just a wizard, brilliant guy. Figured out how to do some carnivore bread and some other cool things. And yeah, if you want to just introduce some more variety into your carnivore diet, it's a great cookbook. So check out BiOptimized, BiOptimized keto.com.
Awesome. I'll have a link to that in the show notes. Matt, you've been in this business for over 15 years, started a lot of successful companies, coached, trained, formulated. What keeps you passionate, and where do you see this all going in 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, I love that question. First of all, I'm ready to go another 100 years for real. Yeah, what keeps me going is really our purpose is to take people from sick to superhuman. So personally, I'm into becoming superhuman. We have a lab in Bosnia, and what the stuff we're cooking up there is, yeah, I'm a transhumanist at the core, and I'm ready to go all the way. I am. So, and I'm ready to build the products and the solutions to help people go all the way. And that's what drives me. The path to going from like normal to optimize, and optimize to superhuman. And again, whether it's the brain, whether it's the body, it's just awesome. I mean, I just love the journey. I just love, leveling up and helping people level up. So that's what drives us. That's what drives me. I love working with geniuses. We have so many geniuses in our team right now, from molecular docking geniuses to PhDs in biofilm to genetic engineering. I mean, you name it, we've got it. And we're attracting more and more of these people. And just working with people like that, creating awesome things. BiOptimizers, I mean, we're on fire. We've got so many cool things coming out, including some really, really high-end consultation and helping the world's elite build kind of the ultimate home setup. Eventually, we're going to do hotels and resorts and all kinds of other things. So, we're just loving the journey, man. It's fun. It's great working with people like yourself. And I'm all about spreading the message. I mean, at the end of the day, like, the supplements are awesome, but Wade and I are all about the education. Wade created the 84-day course, which we give to all of our customers. Last year during COVID, I wrote this book here, which we give away to almost all of our customers. And it's all about just helping people learn and apply, and podcasts like this help spread the message. And then some of the people listening are going to tell their friends and their family, and great information goes viral. And if we fast forward 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 years, shows like this will have had a massive impact that you can't necessarily track, but it's there. So that's what drives me, man. It's just making the world a better place. Honestly, that's it.
That's awesome. Well, really, really appreciate the time today, Matt. It's been great to learn more about you, BiOptimizers, some of the great products you have. I'll, of course, have links to everything in the show notes, but tell folks where is the best place to find out more about you.
I have a blog, a personal blog that I haven't updated in a few years, but it's a lot of cool content there. More marketing and business stuff and life optimization, but mattgallant.tv. Our main site is bioptimizers.com. I would also suggest, if anybody's into high performance, more mental high performance, we launched a new company last November, which has been on fire, called Nootopia, nootopia.com. Those are customized, personalized nootropics. And we're just going to keep pumping out awesome products and cool solutions and give away some good information. So,
well, I'll definitely have to check that out myself, and I'm sure a lot of the listeners will too. Thanks again, Matt.
Thanks, Scott.
If you enjoy the show, please consider supporting the Carnivore Cast on Patreon. By becoming a patron, you'll help us reach more people and continue to create content on carnivore. There are also exclusive perks available, such as private Q&As, consultations with me, and more. Become a supporter at patreon.com/carnivorecast. Check the episode description for the link. Thank you, and I'll see you there. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Carnivore Cast. If you enjoyed this episode, please review on iTunes. It really helps us out. And share it with a friend. What questions would you like answered, or who would you like to hear from in the carnivore research community? You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Carnivore Cast, or go to carnivorecast.com. You can also email me at info@carnivorecast.com. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, keep it carnivore.